In 2017, I received my tracheostomy tube and was started on invasive ventilation. When I had my tracheostomy tube, I had what was called an inner cannula. It was something like this. It went inside the tracheostomy tube, and look, it's a liner inside the tracheostomy tube. Oh, isn't this lovely? Whenever I got mucus, I simply was able to take out the inner cannula, wash it, and then I always let this dry for a little while. I had other inner cannulas, so I would take a clean inner cannula and boom, have a new inner cannula. Oh, isn't this lovely? I thought everybody had to have an inner cannula with their tracheostomy tube, so I used the inner cannula. Then 1 month after receiving my tracheostomy tube, my doctor switched me over to a Portex Bivona called a tight to shaft tracheostomy tube. With this tracheostomy tube, there is no inner cannula. I was really confused. I'm like, but doctor, don't I need this inner cannula? And he tells me, no, you should be okay with the Bivona. You should just be able to suction if you have secretions, and you should be able to get by without the inner cannula. And I thought, oh, wonderful, because I did not like cleaning these inner cannulas, and I always thought it was a risk for infection. You're taking this out of your airway, you're cleaning it, you're putting it back in your airway. That's a lot of exposure in and out of your airway. So I used my new Portex Bivona Tight to Shaft tracheostomy tube, and I loved it. There was one caveat. It was made from silicone. I am very sensitive, and some would even say allergic to silicone. So I had this new tracheostomy tube in my airway, and I was like, it feels like someone is pouring acid right down my airway. But I'm sure this is how it's supposed to feel, because remember, I had just gotten a tracheostomy tube. I did not know that was not normal. My tracheostomy tube actually started working its way out of my airway, so it would actually hang down and I'd have to shove it back in and strap it really tightly, and then it would just work its way back out. And I was like, oh, this is so miserable. So I thought there has to be a different tracheostomy tube. And then I found online the Shyly Flexible Tracheostomy Tube. Da 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 da! With the box. I know, it's so exciting. I found this tracheostomy tube and I asked my medical equipment company, I said, can we get these tracheostomy tubes? And they said, let me look. And at that time, if you remember, Shyly had their old tracheostomy tubes. Those were called the Shyly Classics, or that's what they call them now. But they were the regular tracheostomy tubes. And as part of that tracheostomy tube, the inner cannula actually had the 15 millimeter connector on the inner cannula. So if you took out the inner cannula, you could not hook up to a ventilator. That was a huge deal. But these new tracheostomy tubes, look, they have the connector right here on the tracheostomy tube, and there's no inner cannula with this. So you can use the inner cannula, and it still connects to a tracheostomy, or it still connects to the ventilator, or you can take it out and it still connects to the ventilator. So I was able to get one of these new Shyly Flexible Tracheostomy Tubes inserted into my airway, and I loved it. I was like, oh, where have you been all my life? I know, in a warehouse, but shh, don't tell it. Don't tell. I'm so sorry. You didn't hear that. Anyways, so this was my new tracheostomy tube, and I did not need to use the inner cannula. And you thought, didn't you have a lot of mucus? Well, actually, no, because now I was like 2-3 months after getting my tracheostomy tube, and the mucus had greatly reduced. I'm able to use a nebulizer in the morning, in the evening, and get the secretions out, and then very carefully just cough, and the secretions are gone. So I decided, bye-bye, inner cannula. I do not need you, but I will need you for the rest of the video, so I'm not going to throw you. So I was just using my tracheostomy tube and not using it. And now doctors were like, you need to use this inner cannula. This inner cannula is very important. So I actually tried inserting the inner cannula into the airway, but I couldn't breathe. Now, there is a secret, but actually I do talk about this in some of my videos. I actually disconnect from my ventilator, especially when I go to take a shower. I do not take my ventilator and everything into the shower with me, because my ventilator is not waterproof or water resistant. It does not like to shower. So I just disconnect, put a heat and moisture exchanger on the end of my tracheostomy tube, and then just go into the shower without my ventilator. So during that time, I need to breathe without my ventilator. Putting this inner cannula into the tracheostomy tube makes the airway narrower, less wide. Let's go with that because that sounds better. It reduces the size of the inside of the diameter of the tracheostomy tube, which you decrease the diameter, it makes it more difficult to breathe. So I was trying to breathe. I'm like, it's really hard. It's really hard to breathe. Oh, much better. Taking out the inner cannula expands. It increases the inner diameter of the tracheostomy tube, and I can breathe so much better. Now, one doctor thought, we're just going to give you a larger size tracheostomy tube, and then you can wear the inner cannula, and then everybody will be happy. I was not happy. They used the bigger size tracheostomy tube. Yes, I could breathe with the inner cannula. Isn't this lovely? But because the tracheostomy tube was now a larger size, it now is taking up more room in my trachea. There was a big issue. I no longer had the ability to push air up my airways and through my vocal cords. So although I could now breathe without my ventilator with the inner cannula, I could not talk. I was like, it's really hard to talk because I couldn't get the air around the larger size tracheostomy tube. I wore the tracheostomy tube for about 24 hours. Then I decided I needed to put the smaller size tracheostomy tube in. I did that. Took out the inner cannula and I was like, oh, this is lovely. This is just paradise. I love you. I love you. I love you so much. We are good friends. So now I just use this tracheostomy tube without the inner cannula. I don't know. I don't feel like I'm missing anything without using the inner cannula. So that is why I do not use the inner cannula. It takes up more space. I can't breathe without my ventilator when I have it in. Then I have to use a larger size tracheostomy tube to be able to breathe without my ventilator. But then I can't talk. That is sad. That is very sad. So I just don't use my inner cannula, and I haven't used an inner cannula since June or July, something, 2017. There we go. Boy, it's been a long day. So it's been quite some time since I've used the inner cannula. I don't miss it, and I don't feel like I'm missing anything. Although I will say, if you have a lot of secretions or you just get a tracheostomy tube, I would suggest using inner cannula. It'll make your life a lot easier. You can just take this out, wash it, put a different one in, put a clean one in, and away you go. And it avoids mucus clogs, and it just makes your life a lot easier. But if you don't have a lot of mucus secretions, or if you've had a tracheostomy tube for some time and you really don't feel like the inner cannula is much use to you, talk to your medical provider and ask if you really need to use it. Maybe he or she says, yes, you do. And maybe he or she says, oh, let's try it without it. So that is why I don't use my inner cannula, and I'm so happy. All right. So thank you so much for joining me. Please remember to like and subscribe down below. Please also remember to comment and share. It really helps my YouTube channel. I hope you have a great day and a wonderful week. Bye-bye.